Hello world, Shelly here, and today it is time for your Friday Foundation Fix, where you can get your fix of foundation reviews in between foundation fests. And today I'm going to take a look at the much requested Too Faced Peach Perfect Comfort Matte Foundation. If you have seen any of my foundation reviews before, you know that I've got dry skin. I'm 42 years old, so I've got some fine lines and some sunspots to deal with. Matte foundations tend to be a challenge on my skin because year-round I have dry skin, and even worse in the winter, but we're not quite there yet. So this one, I actually have seen some promising reviews online, which make me think it might work for me. So let's take a look at some of the claims on Sephora's website for this foundation. It retails for $36, but I would like to point out that this tube has 1.6 fluid ounces of product in it, and a typical foundation bottle is 1 fluid ounce of product. So if you do the math on that, you're actually paying about $22.50 per fluid ounce. Now, considering that Revlon just had a foundation out in the drugstore that retailed for $18, getting a high-end brand or a prestige brand at the $22 price point for an ounce of foundation is pretty doggone good, I would say. This foundation comes in 12 different shades. On Sephora's website, it's got 484 reviews and approximately a 4.5 star rating out of 5, which is pretty good. It claims to have medium coverage and to be designed for basically all skin types. They list sensitive, normal, dry, combo, and oily as potential people to enjoy this product. It's a matte finish, a 14-hour wear, comfortable matte foundation for a flawless looking complexion. It's transfer resistant, oil controlling, creates a smooth canvas for comfortable wear using exclusive comfort matte technology that is never cakey or mask-like. Smooths the look and feel of skin. Do we really feel our skin once we put our makeup on? Okay. Lasts up to 14 hours. Oil-free formula. Smells like peaches and fig cream. I hate peaches, so nervous. There are no parabens, no sulfates, no phthalates. And they've got a little extra blurb here. For the first time in Too Faced history, they've created an entire line exclusively for Sephora. So you have to get this at Sephora or at Too Faced. The Too Faced Peaches and Cream Comfort Matte Collection is infused with refreshing peaches and sweet fig cream, ingredients known for their hydrating and antioxidant-rich benefits to help keep skin moisturized, comfortable, and beautifully matte. Now, I do want to point out a couple cool features I thought about this box. So the foundation comes in a opaque tube with a pump, dun, 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 and there's a box. So on the downside, you can't see what color you're dealing with except for the little sticker, and we all know that the print on these stickers is really never true to color. But on the upside, this box has a whole lot of information on it that tells you a lot of things that most foundations don't bother to tell you when you're buying it. So right on the front of the box here, we've got the transfer resistant, the medium coverage, and all the infusions, yada, yada, yada. The oil-free, 14-hour wear, oil controlling, photo-friendly, and shine-free. I just thought that having all of that information, I don't have to wonder what kind of coverage this gives. I don't have to wonder what kind of finish this is. The only downside, I think, is that it's all opaque and you can't really tell the colors. But if you go on Sephora's website, I've got the shade Porcelain, and this is described as for fair skin with rosy undertones. Now, I'm generally fair, neutral, leaning slightly cool or rosy on my undertone. They do have one shade lighter than this, which is Snow, but Snow, at least in the Born This Way foundation that they also make, is kind of my super winter shade. It's too light for me if it's not winter time, and I've got a shade darker than this even in the Born This Way foundation. So let's just take a look at some swatches and see how this foundation in Porcelain compares to the other Born This Way foundations that I've got and some other foundations in this price range on the pale end of the spectrum in my collection. Okay, let's swatch. First up, I put today's foundation second. This is the Peach Perfect in shade Porcelain. And on either side of it, I've got the Too Faced Born This Way. So to the left, I've got the Too Faced Born This Way in Porcelain, which looks like almost an identical color match. And to the right of it, I've got the Too Faced Born This Way in Snow. So today's foundation's in the middle. Born This Way Porcelain, Born This Way Snow. Fourth up, I've got the Urban Decay All Nighter in shade 1.5. Next is the Kat Von D Lock-It foundation in shade Light 44 Cool. And last, I've got the Fiona Styles Matte Foundation in shade 01. All right, my cat stole my other hair clip, so this side is just going to have to drive us crazy. Do you guys watch Bailey Sarian? I absolutely love her. She says if you put a Kleenex on the top of your clip, it will not crease your hair. And I just washed and dried my hair, so it's still a little bit damp, and I'm gonna try it, because, you know, Bailey's like friggin' cool. I've already cleansed, moisturized, sunscreened my face. I am primed with the Smashbox Primerizer. This has been working well for me. It doesn't have any SPF in it, but it is a moisturizing primer that has hyaluronic acid and niacinamide. And I'm thinking, since this is a matte foundation, let's give it just a little bit of a head start on my super dry skin and have a little bit of moisturization going on here. I'm going to do the usual. We've got a Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. For those of you, I'm looking at you, Hamburger, that were asking if I have noticed anything different about these sponges. This is brand new, fresh out of the box. I have not used it yet, so I will see if this feels any different than my other Real Techniques sponges. These are my faves. And on the other side, I'm not going to use the foundation. What am I doing? I'm going to use a brush. This is a Crown paddle brush. I love paddle brushes for brushes when I use a brush for my foundation. I often use the Artis Oval 7. These dupes are totally fine. Like, the only difference is the shape. So go get yourself a dupe if you don't want to spend all that $68 or whatever the Artis brush is. Yeah. I did do a comparison of the Artis to one of my paddle brush dupes. I will leave that link down below, and I'll put it in the little thingamajig up there if you have not seen that video. So let's get into this. All right, let's go 2 pumps and start there. That first one might not have been a full pump. Not too drippy. Start with the sponge. Ooh, it definitely smells like peaches or some. Oh, it's peachy. Woo! Peaches! Definitely a matte finish. I think we're at very light coverage right now. It looks nice on the skin. I think I need to touch up my nose a little bit here, but it is sitting nicely, but there's not a whole lot of coverage yet. So let's try the brush side and see where that takes us. I think I'm getting slightly better coverage with the brush. The finish looks equally nice on both sides, so I think if you prefer a sponge, you could go that route. I would say we are still at light coverage, so I would like to try a couple more pumps and build this up. I think this is a really pretty finish. It builds up nicely on itself. The only word of caution I would say is to be careful, because if you miss a spot, it ends up looking patchy in that spot where it's not actually the foundation being patchy, it's you missed a spot. The shade match is a tiny bit too dark and a tiny bit too yellow for me, which I was not expecting since they said for rosy undertones. But one thing I am really liking is this really does have a soft focus, smoothing effect. It is not settling into lines. It is not settling into pores. It is smoothing out texture and smoothing out lines. I think it does get to a nice medium coverage. I can still see my sunspots and some of my freckles poking through, but I would say it is a nice medium coverage. Definitely a matte finish. It almost feels like it sets down itself. I don't really feel like I'm going to need to powder too much. I will do a little bit of powdering. I feel a tiny bit tacky, but it has set very nicely, and I think it's going to be pretty easy to work with. So chicken time is 2:11. I'm going to go put the rest of my face on. I'll be right back. All right, so far so good. I think this foundation looks gorgeous in terms of its finish. It is accentuating the wrinkles around my mouth just a teeny tiny bit, and I think that's just because it's a matte. therefore a dry looking finish. And otherwise, I'm not really seeing any problems. No settling into lines, no settling into pores. The only trouble I had with blending was getting my concealer to sort of seamlessly blend into the foundation. And I'm wearing the Too Faced Born This Way concealer in Very Fair. It eventually blended out, but it took a little bit of work right on that sort of seam line from my under eye onto my cheeks. Other than that, the powders that I'm wearing blended out perfectly fine. I put a teeny tiny bit of the Laura Geller Baked Balance and Brighten foundation in Porcelain just to lighten up the foundation color a little bit. I really only set the center of my face, and I just used one swirl in the powder for my whole face. My bronzer is the L'Oreal Glam Bronze. Highlight is one of the Hourglass Incandescent Strobe Lighting. The blush is Becca Mineral Blush in Flower Child, which is one of my new favorites. On my eyes, I've got the Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. I just filmed this eye look, so keep an eye out for that. It will be coming soon. And my lip. What is my lip? My lip is Bare Minerals, the Gen Nude Matte in shade XYZ. So that's what's on my face. Everything's going pretty well so far. I will be back in a few hours with a daylight check-in so you can see how the color is wearing in natural light. As I said, I think it's just a teeny touch too dark for me at this point, but it is wearing well. And then I'll be back at the end of the night for a final check-in. So I'll see you in a little bit. Hello, daylight check-in here. It's a little after 7 o'clock, so that means we're at about the 5-hour mark. Here is what the foundation looks like out in daylight. And it's not so bad of a color match. I think in daylight it looks pretty good. And let's get the full light on me. So far I think it is a teeny tiny bit drying. My face is feeling a little bit tight, but it is wearing quite well. I have not had any issues with transfer. It did fully set down with the powder. So far so good. The only thing that I'm still noticing is slight accentuation of my smile lines and sort of the wrinkles around my mouth. But all right, it is 12:33. That means we are just past the 10-hour mark. And I have to say, my thoughts are that this foundation holds up incredibly well. I just have one little spot on my nose that looks like I probably bumped it or something, where it's kind of wearing off. Everywhere else looks almost as good as it did when I applied it. The only thing that's really going on, and this happens to me a lot with matte foundations, is that because it's slightly drying around my larger lines, like my smile lines, it sort of separates and it almost accentuates those lines because you can tell there's lines there as opposed to smoothing them over. But I mean, look at this. It looks really good. So let's go details. Looking up close, there's no settling into lines. There is no settling into pores. Even my chin. Nothing has settled into the fat lines under my chin. That is amazing. The only area that is a little weird is especially on my right side, the spot where the concealer that I applied sort of met with the foundation looks a little bit cakey, or like a little bit of something weird is going on there. I don't know. I was using the Born This Way concealer thinking it would work best with the Too Faced foundation. It did not seem to be that way, or maybe I was just having a bad day, or maybe it didn't like this primer. But I think it liked the primer just fine because everything else looks perfectly fine. Do I think this works for mature skin? Yeah, I think so. It's really not accentuating texture, or really no settling is going on. Do I think it works for dry skin? It's a little bit drying. I can tell my skin's a little dry. I'm starting to get the drag marks and it feels just a teeny bit itchy. So I would not call this a hydrating formula. However, if you're a dry skin person and you are looking for a matte foundation, this might be one of the best I've tried in terms of both longevity and the fact that it doesn't cake up, it doesn't cling to dry patches. I have a pretty significant dry patch that happens right around the center of my eyebrows and also around my nose, and this foundation looks really good on both of those areas for my skin. So In terms of shade range, there is one shade lighter, so if you are paler than me, you may find a match here. I think I am probably, as I am in the Born This Way, I'm between Snow and Porcelain, and there's really just no such thing. If I mix the two, maybe I'll have my perfect match, but I think overall this is a pretty fabulous foundation. I am impressed. I did not expect to like it this much. I think it looks really good, and if I had to give this a grade, I'm going to go A-. If it wasn't drying, it would get to that A spot, but it's just a little bit itchy at this point in the day. That said, we are 10 hours into the day, so I'm really impressed with this foundation. This is pretty doggone good. So there you have it, my thoughts on the new Too Faced Peach Perfect foundation on maturing skin, dry skin. I like it. I think it's pretty darn good, and try it out if you've got dry skin and you've been looking for a matte foundation. You might just find your match here. Thanks a lot for taking some time out of your day to geek out over makeup with me. I appreciate it. Give this video a thumbs up if you want to see some more foundation reviews. Please feel free to leave down in the comments any suggestions for foundations you would like to see me try out. You can always search on my channel, Geek Out of Water, and the foundation name you're looking for. I've got over 40 foundations. I might even hit the 50 mark by now over this time. And if you'd like to see me check out a foundation that I've reviewed a long time ago and you want to see an update, let me know that too. Feel free to leave me a comment. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks again, and have yourself an awesome day or night wherever you are in the world. Take care of each other. Bye-bye.